It's been 8 years since we built our swimming pool. All this time, the equipment maintaining the pool has worked fine and never gave us any issues. However, today we have decided to retire our pool's Pentair water pump. It is a good pump that is not very expensive and is easy to maintain. It was set up on an electric timer. For the past couple months, it gave us some problems, so we spoke with our pool builder, and he recommended to get a new pump. Originally we wanted to replace the existing pump with the same model. But after some research and advisement from the pool people we trust, we decided to go with the Jandy variable speed pump. So why did we choose to get this pump? Well, it is an energy-saving pump. If you use your pool year-round and electricity is expensive where you live, or if you have a large pool, attached spa, or decorative water features, a variable speed pump may be your best bet for cost-saving operation. Also, this pump has app-based control, so you can control your pump via a smartphone or computer. I made this video not to promote this equipment, but to show you folks the installation process. I hope it will help you if you will face this situation. For consultation and installation, we used Ryan's Pool Solutions company. And of course, we want to thank Ryan for his hard work. Alright, the old pump removal process is done. So let's watch and listen Ryan while he's installing the new pump. This video includes 2 parts of installation. Part number 1, plumbing installation. Part number 2, electrical installation.
So we've got our gaskets on the inside of each of these unions. Got a gasket going around. It's nice and flush. And always just hand tight on the units. Same with the front.
And then you glue it.
And then pipe will slip in and glue into those ports. You'll get one special fitting to go over this valve here, so that we can take advantage of getting rid of this half a union. If I can go over the valve with a 2.5-inch fitting without having to replace the valve, and we'll do a 2.5-inch 90 out this way. We'll kind of come back into the pump.
Okay.
Full of stuff. It's hard to keep enough stuff on these. With all these pool parts, they're always changing. Move this valve back. Plenty of room, so we're not so tight here. I'm going to give us, instead of couplings, 2 unions to detract from this pipe to be able to save this valve.
Sure, I'm in.
And we can pull it back, get into this pump, have plenty of room, and not be so tight with your other valves.
Makes sense.
We will have to reprime everything when we're ready. Opening this valve will let all that water drop back to the pool. Space to glue back to. Like to do it at the same spot on the other side so everything looks symmetrical. To give myself as much room as possible, I'll probably cut about the minimum I need for this union here. Another 1.5 inches down on each side of these pipes. And using clear glue on these keeps it very nice and clean looking. the blue glue is almost impossible to make it look good. Gonna do both of these at the same time here. Here, I'll be right back. Go over the top like this and end up reducing back down from that 2.5 inch. With a couple 45s will come out, and then 90 into the pump. We'll have plenty of room to do so. It won't be so jammed up where you can still work your valves and access everything. It's a 2.5 inch coupling to go over the valve, and then we will put in a 2.5 by 2 reducer to get back down to our pipe size for the inlet on that pump. This one on the outside of the valve. That allows us to keep our flow by not reducing the pipe size on the inside as well. A little bit of a height difference.
Okay.
So if I turn these around, we'll be able to find the right height, extend up to the pipe height, and give us enough to come into the front of it. So that's good there. So we'll just be able to cut us a little short stub piece here and make our height requirements. So what I'll also do is some of these fittings will have lines that are direct center, and you can utilize those to keep your angles exactly perfect.
Okay.
So if I'm gluing my pipe in on the side with the line, I can, on the other fitting, use that line to make sure I meet them up, which gives you an exact angle where you're not going to be missing because of a turn.
I didn't know that. Okay.
So that's a nice little trick to learn to keep
Yeah.
your 90s and your 45s if you're putting two together. Because if you line them up in this way, you're going to keep a full 90 without having it turned, and we're just going to do the opposite with ours. Kind of extend that pipe, so that lots of times you can utilize those to help you give you the proper angles for sure. I'll go in the side with the lines on this one as well. Want to be the opposite of a 90-degree turn there, so we're just going to line those lines up, and that gives us the exact angle that we need to make sure that we're not 90 off in a bad direction. Just going to kind of dry fit this one here. Now we'll go into the front of the pump. Show me exactly where I need to so just kind of dry fitting is going to allow me to at least want to have 1.5 inches there for your next fitting to be able to take place. So you know you have enough room. And I may even cut just a little bit back on this just to make sure we've got what we need. Come back on that about 1/2 inch. On the side, see where my exact length is going to be. It's going to be plenty long enough. So I like to go ahead and glue mine in and then cut to length.
Okay.
Once I know that it's long enough. Set it to the side again because your sock goes in about that 1.5 inches. And we'll see right where we line up with our pump and give us a cut. Now at the right length, if we dry fit again, We get to right where we want. I do have still a little bit of play with my pump. That's also what's nice with a union. You could always take it off and utilize it for a little bit of movement. Make sure that's right where we want to be there. I'm going to go ahead and knock this a little bit off as well. That'll allow me to really get back as far away from that. So I'll go as minimum as I can right there with a cut. Looking good there. Lining everything up. Also, with our pump being free, we can make this one a little bit easier just by being able to kind of slide back and straight into it. And we'll do both of them at the same time, which keeps us from having to kind of just guess at an angle. Utilize the part that we have with our chlorinator fitting.
You're gonna do 45?
45. Yes, sir. Now we're getting just the right angle where we need to be. All right, so we're pretty much plumbed in.
Okay.
Now we'll go to tying in this electrical here. Remove the compartment on the back of the motor. And so in here you've got low voltage side for your comms communications, 2 relays that will power 2 devices, choosing, and then the incoming power to the pump.
Okay.
And these pumps are a little different than the single speeds you're used to. This one will have power supplied to it at all times. So you won't switch it on and off. It will be on a line voltage supply and have power constantly. So
This is for the ground, right?
This is for bonding. Yes, sir. That's right. So this bonding wire will attach to that lug. That runs to all the other equipment, and then it actually connects to the pool underground all the way around, grounding and bonding anything that to earth. And so you've got a couple of different options on where you can put your conduits, because they've got multiple spots for you. So with ours being on the right side, we'll go ahead and So I'm gonna go ahead and tie my ground into the lug bolt
Mm-hmm.
on the main frame of the pump. And then with the voltage that we're supplying, both wires are the same. They will show you an L1 and an L2. If you're supplying 240 volts, either color to either lug will not change. I do not believe these ones will allow you to use 120 volts. I think they're 240 only. Usually anything 2 horsepower and up is always a 240 volt.
Okay.
We'll take the other parts of the ground. The first part we tied to the pump. The second part we're going to go to the grounding lug on the power supply. So the one thing that's going to be different with this pump, usually if all we were doing was using this pump, these would be the only 2 wires I would need. But we're going to use the booster pump as well in one of these relays. So what we'll do is we'll jump voltage from our supply to our first relay to power that relay.
Gotcha.
2 little jumper wires. The slower of the lower RPMs of the 2 relays, just for the size of your swimming pool. As far as turning on your booster pump for flow rate. So I may swap it over just depending on once we look at it to see if we've got enough, going on what you want normal run, because we can adjust our RPMs, and let's say that under that 1725 threshold to turn on the cleaner. If you don't think we've got enough movement, we can hop to the next relay.
Okay.
And do our daily filtration a little bit higher, and then ramp up to that other relay speed.
Sure.
But I think with the size of your pool, we could really take advantage of. I'm gonna slide both wires under that L2. Twist it so it goes in nice and easy there. Tighten that back down. Now the line in on the other side of the relay would be the first screw on this relay, and the other one's going to be number 3. Those are our 2 supply, and the 2 and the 4 screws are going to be your loads that go out to the pump. Cut these to the right length. These relays are neat because you could even use them if you supplied 120 volt to turn on a pool light at a certain speed if you wanted to, or anything that you've got in your backyard, yard lights, something like that. Most of the time they're utilized for the booster pump. And let's say you had a salt system. A salt system could go into the slower one. You would have to achieve a certain amount of flow for your salt system to work. So you could actually power your salt system at the slower relay and still use your other one for the booster pump, and really makes the whole time clock system obsolete. Everything still works together instead of kind of mixing and matching them. I'm not sure if you can read down there, but it tells you line and load. Line is your supply power. Load is what you're loading your power to, the device you're putting it towards. So it tells you right there, line and load on each relay here.
Yep.
All right. So now we'll reroute this conduit that runs back to that electrical box, and we'll bring it back into the pump here. So we've shut off the breaker right at the beginning to make sure our power was off. We'll expose our wires that are running to our old equipment here. So the booster pump is on this time clock here.
Yes.
And these are our two, the same premise as what you have in the back of the pump. 1 and 3 on the screws are your line voltage. 2 and 4 are what it's going to. This is our two that we need to disconnect here. That ran to our booster pump. Comes down into this first conduit here. Back, and then we've got the ground wire, this green here. Loop back. We're wiggling it right into this loading dock here. Yeah. Right. This is slide. That's all right. Okay. So we're going to have multiple wires on loads for this. One is going to go to the pump, and one is going to go to the pool heater. That's what we have, 2 supply wires for each. And so what we'll do is, when you're using any kind of computer automation, these units always ask you to wire it to a breaker, and you use the automation to control the heater. We'll be able to do the same thing, give it power all the time, and you've got flow sensors in this heater that it will not turn on unless you have water moving. It will always also have power, and you'll be able to on and off at you like normal. Only power it when you're wanting to use it, knowing you're using it for that purpose. Probably end up doing is swapping these conduits from the heater. Now that we need the long one to go to the pump, I'll just swap the one we have for the booster pump and then use the shorter one. So this is the conduit that we just attached to the heater. So now we're going to disconnect it from this pump. See inside.
So we just swapped the cable.
Yep, because this was the long one.
Yeah.
I didn't need the long one for this one anymore. I needed it for the heater, so we just swapped the cables to utilize that. Our connections are. We'll be able to utilize these two, one for the booster pump and the other one for the heater. And so you can take out your plug, and this locking nut will actually lock in your conduit connector here. And so what we will need to do to adding the heater is just add also one more jumper. So since we're using the last relay, we'll jump from these those in the same way kind of we did from the pump over here. And this unit doesn't use any more amps than what your old unit did. So those will be our supply to the heater. So we're going to put those in load 1 and load 2 on our specific relay. Right, we'll use jumper wires again to supply that relay with power. We're going to use this little jumper wire to pull power from this relay to the next. So we're going from line 2 to line 2. So we're going to go line 1 to line 1 to jump this power. And our final connection, we'll do our booster pump real quick. This will be our last hole. It was actually tightened in there. We can utilize to put our last conduit in. Just ready for the pump here. This on first before we connect anything. Otherwise, we'll have to take it off and put it back on. We need to do it before we slide our wire through. Probably gonna do it underneath there so it's nice and neat. Being careful not to cut our wire. Just twist off the last little bit. Slide everything off. That's a 3/4 inch hole. I think that, let's see, make sure I'm going to be able to cover up that hole. I may need to get a little inverter here because that hole is bigger than the other ones. But it looks like we'll be just fine. And that is a 3/4 inch hole there, where the other ones were 1/2 inch. We've got the Phillips head screws are your L1 and L2 for our 2-line voltage wires. And so we're going to wrap them around and underneath those Phillips head screws and tighten them down. Kind of push these out of my way to allow me to get my wire back in there. And needle nose we can pinch and make a really good connection there. Okay, and then we'll just slide those, bend those back into place there. Do the same on the other screw with the other voltage wire there.
Okay.
Our little ground screw, and I believe last one being in the ground here, and it's always in the top.
And you guys make green always ground?
Green to always ground. Usually black and red for power supply.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're using low voltage like 120 volts, white is always your common.
Okay.
Which is a neutral when you're using like your lower voltages in your 120s and 115 ranges. And if you keep them that way, then everybody knows what's what.
But did you run into some crazy installations than people who did like colorblind or whatever?
Yes.
It's not Philips, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, it's yes, they'll use color wire for their neutrals, and you really have to follow and see exactly what you're doing and follow their little cover. And these are changeable too for 120 and 240 volt. Usually they'll give you a diagram right on the side that'll show you how to change it from 240 to 120. We're going to be mounting on the wall. It gives us our signal.
Okay.
And this unit comes pre-wired in here, so it gives you a
and there is no port, all right, network port.
I do not believe there is.
Yeah.
I do not believe there is.
Oh,
I looked everywhere to find one.
Which is kind of stupid, but
you would think it'd be easy to put a port right in it. You thinking somewhere like right around in here?
Yeah, it's good. Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep you from having to climb over anything, and I don't think we'll have any problems with the window.
No.
There. So
basically, my router right here in the bedroom here.
Okay.
So
okay.
So we're gonna connect again to the pump.
To the pump
to get the
interface supply there. So this is the port that we'll be using, the red 4-pin connector. It gives you a color combination of wire, red, black, green, and yellow. And you've also see your red, black, green, and yellow labels on the port itself. They give you a nice little fitting here, which allows you to get this in there nice and neatly. Kind of slide up through the bottom. Tuck it around this corner, and this will pinch right back in on top of it. Hold it tight. These ports pop right off the board so that we can get our color combos, black, yellow, then green. Same in that color combo, we'll just tie them down. Very important to get good connections and not miss one or have them touching or anything. So good clean connections. All right. We'll be able to just slide right on our port all the way down.
Okay.
And that compartment is set to go now.
Done.
We can put our top back on. I'm going to leave those off just kind of a little bit loose in case we need to get back in, but I don't think we did. All right, so just a few more connections and we'll be ready. This was the one.
So it's going to main power supply.
Right. So this was our pump that we
Start with beginning.
started with. And main power supply is coming from this little unit here. 2 blue wires that run to those 2 points right there. So those are our main power supply. If we, of course, with everything off, we know everything power was off. Take those out, and we can connect to our 2 wires via wire nut.
So you just connect them with the plugs?
Yep, and we'll just connect those with two wire nuts and pretty much supply our power to our pump over there, bypassing the whole unit. The light still stays tied up to your GFCI there.
And I still have a power here, right, in this power outlet.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That one still is hot, so I was being very careful not to touch anything on the sides of those. And that is outlet right there. So one blue to black, and then one blue to red. Our power. So go ahead and tighten everything back down. And we can mount our there. Would you like it any higher?
No, it's fine.
That look good? In here.
So you connect them together.
Yep, and you try and keep that all a loop. If for some reason I didn't have enough wire to reach, then make these little what's called a split bolt connector, which allows you to slide it over and attach a little piece to it. That worked very, very well, but nice and snug. And let's see if we can get that probably.
Yeah, just a little bit. There you go.
All right.
So resume schedule operation. Here you go.
All right.
I'm resuming. The water level should be up to the top.
So with these, the slower you go, sometimes it may not fill all the way up. I do like to get it all the way up, but not nearly as crucial with this pump as the old one. But I do like to start it high to get it up, and then it should be able to, yes, it should be able to keep it.